Good morning. My name is Joshua Gonzalez. I'm going to be speaking to you today about Foxconn. Before we get started, though, I wanted to ask you guys a few questions. By a show of hands, how many of you work or currently employed? Okay. Of those of you who do work, how many of you work about part-time, 25 hours a week or less? Okay. And then the remainder of you, I assume, work full-time jobs, full-time being about 40 hours a week. How many of you know what overtime is? Overtime is anything over the normal 40 hours a week, and normally you get paid, what, time and a half for that, minimum? Well, what if you didn't have that option? What if you got forced to work over 40 hours a week with no compensation whatsoever? And that's something I want you guys to hang on to while we go through this good explanation of what Foxconn is. Foxconn has been in the news lately. Basically, they're a company that makes electronic components for much of the world's consumer electronics. They produce actually 50% of the world's consumer electronics. They deal with things like wireless technology, nanotechnology, and what they call green production, which is basically the next evolution of a technology where supplies are renewable, recyclable, actually a very noble cause in that respect. Foxconn employs over 1 million employees worldwide. That's the same numbers if you were to take the corporations of Apple, Dell, and Microsoft all together. That still wouldn't be enough employees to fill up 1 million. They have plants, 27 plants in South America, Mexico, North America, Europe, and Asia. Even though Foxconn is located in the United States, they typically will put their plants in countries where labor laws are a little bit more flexible and there's a little less oversight. And for those reasons we'll discuss here in just a moment. Partnerships that Foxconn has are with a lot of major brands, including Dell, Apple, Hewlett-Packard, Motorola, Sony, and Nokia. How many of you here use at least one product from one of these companies? Computer, personal, cell phone, whatnot. So yeah, I mean, this company touches the lives of a lot of people, not just in this room. If we were to go campus-wide or just statewide, the numbers will be exponential. Like I saw 3 Apple computers in this room alone just this morning. So I mean, it's a pretty widespread company. The factory that we're going to focus on today is actually the Chinese factory. The Chinese factory is under scrutiny because they have had serious allegations of labor law violations. Basically, their employees have been abused, subjected to really long, extreme hours, harsh conditions, whatnot. So what recently had them in the news was that over the last 3 years, or 4 years, I guess now, since 2009, they've had 27 documented suicide deaths of their employees. 27 suicides. The year 2011 alone, there were 12 suicide attempts, with 10 successful. 2 people survived their injuries. The most common way that they decided to do this was to jump off the buildings to their deaths, 3 or 4 stories at a time. So Foxconn's solution to this was to put up nets that they said was to prevent and help employees, avoid accidents and personal injury, but it was more likely just because they wanted to cover their own end. I'll leave it with the words. Yeah, this was probably the biggest news out there, is that Foxconn, instead of changing its policies as far as labor conditions were concerned, just said, well, we're not going to fix the problem, we're just going to prevent people from committing suicide. That was the attempt that they made at resolving the situation. A lot of people wondered, what conditions are so bad that somebody would want to commit suicide over here at Foxconn. And basically, a couple of American agencies went over there and started doing investigations. They interviewed 35,000 employees, and they did a tour of 3 plants. And what they found were that employees were being forced to work a minimum of 60-hour work weeks. That's 12-hour days, 5 days a week, minimum. That's their work week. In the United States, the most that somebody can work and not get paid overtime for is 40 hours a week. So 60 hours a week, no overtime pay, no compensation, no benefits. It's a high-pressure job. They basically get contracted to put out so many components at a time within a set period of time. So it's basically non-stop, 12 hours a day, doing the same repetitive, non-changing activity. Combine that with the fact that they also provide their employees with dorms. These dorms are overcrowded, they're not very clean, the facilities that they have at their disposal are lacking, to say the least. Another attempt that they made at stopping people from jumping out of their, off the buildings, out of their buildings, was to install wiring to keep them insulated and kept inside. Combine these two, combine the very poor working conditions with the very poor home conditions and the age groups that these people are, it leads for a very bad mixture. The average age of somebody working at Foxconn is 18 to 24. They're a migrant worker. They're not making very much money. Work conditions are horrible, and they have horrible home conditions. Basically, it leads to a very volatile situation. Basically, what I would like to do is go back to the original question where I asked if you guys had no choice as far as working overtime. what if you had no voice, but if nobody was going to speak up for you, what would you do? The reason I brought this up is because it's very easy to take for granted, living in America where no matter what your job is, you can complain about it. You can say something to somebody, you can take it to the news and basically bring attention to your situation, whereas these people really don't have much of a choice. In conclusion, I guess I don't really have one. I just wanted to bring this to y'all's attention. Just keep in mind that no matter how much you feel that your job may be bad or you don't get paid enough and whatnot, it could always be worse. And there are of course some resources.
Thank you.